Michael, good morning, everyone. Today our lesson is on hormones, okay, which includes the uh, cascade effect, okay, and there is another one. I can't recall. Okay, we wait till we get to that part. Okay, so now hormones. Okay, now what are hormones? Okay, hormones are biochemical messengers released by the ductless glands, which is known as the endocrine gland, and acts on target cells. So apparently this biochemical messenger, which is being released by the ductless glands, okay, acts on target cells. Hormones, okay, fall into three major chemical classes. So classification of hormones based on chemical classes, okay, they are grouped into polypeptides, amines, and steroids. Okay. Now, these polypeptides, they are also known as peptides and proteins. Okay, so hormones that are grouped into peptides or proteins. Okay, apparently these hormones, they are composed of chains of amino acids. So you can picture that in your mind. They are very long chains of amino acids. Okay, and then peptides. Okay, peptide hormones are encoded in DNA. Okay, peptide hormones, they are encoded in DNA and produced by the same cellular machinery responsible for transcription and translation of other peptide molecules. So meaning to say, these peptide hormones, they are being synthesized in the DNA. It's the same way, okay, synthesis of other peptide molecules by transcription and translation. Can you understand? Okay, peptide hormones, they are being synthesized in the DNA by transcription and then translation later on in the cell cytoplasm. Okay, same means with other proteins. Now, examples of peptide hormones are antidiuretic hormone, which you'll learn later uh, in one of the chapter in semester 2. It's somewhere later. Okay, antidiuretic hormone. Okay, and then apparently these antidiuretic hormones, okay, they consist of 9 amino acids. Then insulin, okay, it consists of 51 amino acids. And then growth hormone, HGH, human growth hormone, which consists of 191 amino acids. So that is a very long chain of amino acids. Okay, that is about peptide hormones. Now, protein hormones, okay, they are glycoproteins that compose of two peptide chains, okay, with attached carbohydrates. That's why they are glycoproteins. So we have carbohydrates attached, okay, with the proteins, two peptide chains of proteins. Examples of proteins hormones, okay, they are the thyroid stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, which you learn later in the reproduction chapter. Okay, the second class of hormone, okay, they are the amines, or also known as amino acid derivatives. Okay, so these hormones are manufactured by enzymatic modification of specific amino acids. All right, so examples, okay, of amines are hormones secreted by the adrenal medulla. Okay, adrenal medulla. You have this diagram in your module. Okay, turn to that particular page. Where is this adrenal medulla? Okay, so adrenal medulla secretes these amines hormones, thyroid and pineal glands. Okay, now these hormones that are secreted by the adrenal medulla, they are derived from tyrosine. Okay, and these hormones, okay, that is being derived from the tyrosine, okay, are known as catecholamines. Okay, an example of these catecholamines, okay, are epinephrine, okay, which is other name for epinephrine is adrenaline, okay, and norepinephrine, which other name for norepinephrine is noradrenaline. Okay, other example hormones, okay, that are derived from tyrosine, okay, other than catecholamines, right? They are the thyroid hormones, which is secreted by the thyroid gland. Okay. Now, pineal gland secretes a different amine hormone. Okay, which is melatonin. Then this melatonin is derived from tryptophan. Okay, remember earlier here I mentioned that examples of amine hormones, they are the hormones secreted by the adrenal medulla, thyroid, and pineal glands. So I already explained to you all these three: pineal glands, thyroid, and the adrenal medulla. The ones from the adrenal medulla, okay, so known as catecholamines, right? Now, the third group is steroids. Okay, so steroids, okay, they are lipids, okay, manufactured by enzymatic modifications of cholesterol. Okay, now example of steroid hormones, they are the testosterone, estradiol, okay, and then progesterone, aldosterone, and cortisol. Right? Estradiol, and estrogen, they're similar but not the same. Steroid hormones, okay, further can be subdivided into sex steroids and corticosteroids. So there are two types of sex steroid hormones here: sex steroids and corticosteroids. Now, the name sex, okay, so sex steroids, okay, these hormones that is from the sex steroids, they are secreted by testes, ovaries, placenta, and adrenal cortex. Do not confuse adrenal cortex with adrenal medulla. Okay, adrenal medulla, okay, secretes amines type of hormones, but adrenal cortex secretes sex steroids, which is a steroid type of hormone. Okay, and then the other group of steroid hormones, okay, is the corticosteroids, okay, which is secreted by or secreted only by the adrenal cortex. Okay, so now all these three big groups of hormones, okay, if we group them and based on their solubility, okay, water solubility, okay, or lipid solubility, we can have this big picture here. So apparently polypeptides, they are water soluble, okay, meaning to say they give out hydrophilic properties. Steroids, okay, since they are derived from lipids, okay, so they are lipid soluble, so they give out hydrophobic properties. Okay, amines, however, on the other hand, displays, okay, or okay, based on the what are the examples of amines. All right, some amines are water soluble, like epinephrine. Some amines apparently are lipid soluble, like the tyrosine. Okay. Okay, now these are the examples, all the examples of the hormones, okay, that we have inside our body and where they are located, as well as their chemical class. Okay, then their functions and how are they being regulated. Okay, so now students are studying for the STPM, you need to know all this. Okay, all these hormones, all these example of hormones, okay, which gland secretes them, and then their chemical class, okay, their functions, and how they are being regulated. You need to know. Okay, by hook or by crook, you need to know. Okay, is it that difficult? Not really. Okay, so we have oxytocin, okay, ADH, which is example of peptide hormones. Okay, and then we have this human growth hormone, HGH, which is a type of protein, prolactin, type of protein. Okay, FSH, LH, TSH, these are glycoprotein. Okay, then we have the thyroid gland that secretes this tyrosine, which is a type of amines, the calcitonin, a type of peptides. Okay, then this thyroid hormone is a type of peptide. Okay, insulin and glucagon, they are type of protein. Okay, I'm sure the functions you know. already. Okay, so the other functions you will learn, eventually you learn it as we progress in semester 2. So don't take it too seriously in a way that you think it's very difficult to remember this. Eventually, as we progress in semester 2, you'll be learning more detail about this function of these particular hormones. All right. Okay. Then the steroid hormones. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, adrenal cortex, testes, ovaries, and the only these three, right? Secretes the steroid hormones. Okay, you see, glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, mineralocorticoids. Okay, it's a bit difficult to pronounce that. And then androgens, estrogens, and progestins. These are all the steroid hormones only in our body. Okay, others we have amines, proteins, and glycoproteins. Okay, now we proceed with mechanism of action of steroid hormone. So now you know we have steroid and non-steroid hormones. Those non-steroid hormones are the amines and the proteins, right? Those are non-steroids. So now let's go action of this steroid hormone. Right now, one example here is testosterone. Okay, so now the mechanism of action of a steroid hormone is done via activation of genes to produce protein. Okay, so the mechanism of action of a steroid hormone is by activate genes to produce proteins. Now the keyword here is to activate genes or activation of genes. And to activate the genes, it must occur inside the nucleus, right? Inside the nucleus. So now you know already steroid hormones, they are lipid soluble, betul kan? So the steroid hormone can easily diffuse through the phospholipid membrane, okay, of cell. Okay, can easily diffuse the steroid hormone. So now, one example is testosterone. So testosterone is a steroid hormone, okay, and it can easily diffuse through the membrane of a striated muscle. So one example is the muscle cell, myocyte. Okay, so steroid hormone can easily diffuse into the muscle cell, right? So now, this testosterone, okay, after it already diffused into the muscle cell, this testosterone will bind with a specific receptor, okay, in the cytoplasm of the muscle cell, right? And this receptor is known as the androgen receptor. Okay, if you can't recall it, you just write as steroid receptor. Okay, apparently this is a steroid hormone. It must bind with a steroid receptor. Okay, now the binding of a steroid hormone into a steroid receptor will form a hormone receptor complex. Okay, now class, please take note. The binding of a steroid hormone with the steroid receptor can occur either in the cell cytoplasm or inside the nucleus. Okay, both ways it may happen. Okay, and eventually the binding of a steroid hormone with a steroid receptor will form a hormone receptor complex. Okay, and then the formation of this hormone receptor complex can occur either in the cell cytoplasm or in the nucleus. Okay, or inside the nucleus. It depends where the steroid hormone bind with the steroid receptor. If it binds here in cytoplasm, so the formation of a hormone receptor complex will occurs in the cell cytoplasm. If it occurs, the binding of the steroid hormone with the steroid receptor occurs inside the nucleus, so the formation of the hormone receptor complex will be inside the nucleus. All right. So now the hormone receptor complex, okay, then moves into the nucleus if the binding of the steroid hormone and the steroid receptor occurs in the cell cytoplasm. So the hormone receptor complex will move into the nucleus. Okay, now once inside the nucleus, the hormone receptor complex will bind with specific gene. You can see the complex here, the hormone receptor complex here. It will bind with specific genes, okay, in the DNA to activate transcription process. Okay, and the specific genes in the DNA, okay, that bind with the hormone receptor complex is known as the DNA regulatory site, which you will learn, okay, towards the end of semester 3 later in more detail, the lactoperon to be more specific here, right? So now transcription is activated, okay, transcription of the genes will produce mRNA, okay. Now we have the mRNA. So the mRNA will move to the cytoplasm of the cell for translation. Remember in Sem 1, I already explained to you about transcription and translation, right? Transcription always happen inside the nucleus, while translation will occurs in the cell cytoplasm, okay? And transcription will produce RNA or mRNA, and this mRNA will move out from the nucleus of the cell into the cell cytoplasm. Why? For translation process. Right. Now, once the mRNA is inside the cell cytoplasm, what happens? Translation of the mRNA will produce myosin, actin, and other proteins needed for the muscle growth. So boys, now you know why testosterone is very important for you. Okay? It's a precursor for muscle growth. You need testosterone to synthesize, okay, myosin, actin, and other proteins that needed for muscle growth. The same goes for the girls as well, but you don't need as much testosterone as the boys or the men. Okay, so that's about mechanism of action of steroid hormone. All right. So this diagram here shows you. Okay, another example. Okay, mechanism of action of a steroid hormone, and in this diagram here, the example of a steroid hormone is estradiol, which is a form of estrogen. Okay, it's very similar with the ones steroid hormone. Okay, so again, the mechanism of action of this estradiol is done via activation of genes to produce proteins. Okay, so this estradiol, they are lipid soluble, so this estradiol can easily diffuse through the phospholipid membranes, okay, of a liver cell. Okay, so now what happens? This estradiol, okay, will bind to the estradiol receptor, okay, either in the cytoplasm or in the nucleus, to form a hormone receptor complex. Okay, class, so don't get confused. Testosterone involves the diffusion of testosterone into the muscle cell. Estradiol will diffuse into a liver cell. Okay, then the hormone receptor complex moves into the nucleus and binds with the DNA regulatory site to activate transcription, okay, of the gene for the protein phytalogenin. Okay, so now we have mRNA here. Okay, so the transcription of genes will produce mRNA. The mRNA goes to the cytoplasm, all right, and then the translation of mRNA will produce phytalogenin. Okay, and this phytalogenin will be secreted, okay, out from the liver cell, all right, and transported into the blood circulatory system, okay, to the reproductive system to produce egg yolk. Okay, all right, this diagram here to show you, okay, the steroid hormone that binds with the steroid hormone receptor inside the nucleus instead of in the cytoplasm. Okay, now mechanism of action of non-steroid hormone, right? So this mechanism, okay, is known as signal transduction or cascade effect. Okay, steroid hormone is activation of genes, but for non-steroid hormone it is signal transduction or cascade effect. So what happens here is a complex chain reaction, right, where action of the first messenger will activate another enzymatic reaction to produce many product molecules, okay, or to alter the cell process. And this signal transduction or cascade effect is triggered by a cell surface hormone receptor. Okay, now you look at this animation here while I'm doing the explanation, right? So we have one example of non-steroid hormone, which is adrenaline or epinephrine, right? And this adrenaline will act as the first messenger. Okay, so the first messenger, right, or adrenaline will bind to the receptor in the plasma membrane of the target cells. Example is the liver cell, to form hormone receptor complex. So we have, this is the plasma membrane of the target cell, okay, and this is the receptor, and one example is the liver cell. Okay, so you can see how the adrenaline bind with the receptor. Okay, next, what happens after that? The hormone receptor complex, okay, binds to, okay, and activates the G protein. Okay, so apparently this hormone receptor complex will bind to this G protein, and this will activate the G protein, and this G protein is guanine nucleotide binding protein, right? And this activated G protein, okay, will then binds to and activates the adenylyl cyclase. Okay, the activated adenylyl cyclase and then will catalyzes the conversion of ATP to CAMP. Okay, and this CAMP, also known as cyclic adenine monophosphate, which is the second messenger, okay, second messenger in this cascade effect, and is found in the cytoplasm. Okay, can you see the CAMP? This CAMP is inside the cell, the liver cell's cytoplasm, right? And this CAMP is the second messenger. Adrenaline, or the non-steroid hormone, is the first messenger. This is the second messenger. Next, what happens after that? Okay, the CAMP will initiate a complex of chain reaction by activates protein kinase. So we have protein kinase inside the liver cell, and this protein kinase, apparently they are inactivated. Okay, initially they are inactive. Okay, and the presence of this CAMP, okay, this CAMP will activate this inactive protein kinase. Next, activated protein kinase, right, then activates the phosphorylase kinase. Okay, activated protein kinase will activate this phosphorylase kinase. Okay, activated phosphorylase kinase then activates glycogen phosphorylase. Okay, can you see this activated phosphorylase kinase? And then glycogen phosphorylase then catalyzes the breakdown of glycogen into glucose phosphate. And then phosphatase finally converts glucose phosphate into glucose. And then what do we get? A lot of glucose is formed in a short period of time. Okay, the glucose then diffuses into the blood, causing a rise in the blood glucose level. Right? So each protein kinase catalyzes phosphorylation of many proteins. Okay, so that's this how, okay, we have the adrenaline rush. When we have this adrenaline inside our blood, what happens? It will give us a surge of energy. The surge of energy, it came from the surge of the blood glucose level. Okay, surge of the blood glucose level, or the surge of glucose level inside our blood. Okay, the differences in the mechanism between steroid and non-steroid hormones. Okay, so since my laptop is running out of battery, I will only explain one, right? So the others you read on your own and you can text me if you don't understand. So now, steroid hormone, okay, easily pass through the lipoprotein membrane of target cells, whereas non-steroid hormone cannot pass through the lipoprotein membrane of target cells. Okay, so these are the other examples, okay, differences between the mechanism of steroid and non-steroid hormone, right? And last one, proteins form, okay, in the steroid hormone, okay, proteins form from the steroid hormone produce effects, whereas, okay, activated enzymes and its products produce effects in the non-steroid hormone. Okay, so that's it for today. Okay, so happy learning. Okay, bye.